What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff, arm yourselves, life stuff. This was supposed to go in yesterday's video when the video was titled Controversial Topics, but we ran out of steam. But that's convenient because this is going to be a bit of a grab bag too. I wanted to make this video a few days ago when energy on it was at its peak, but then I didn't, and then the plan faltered a bit, and then not putting it in yesterday's video, the plan faltered even further, and then today, planning on making this video this evening. You ever get those moments you're struck with a concept, and then you're so unbelievably horny you can't think straight the rest of the day? That happened, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the beginning, though it doesn't, well, it kind of relates. And then to distract myself from that whole feeling, I tend really not to like when people talk about typology on non-typology videos, but someone recommended a typology and video, which is something I normally wouldn't do, but I thought it out today to escape horniness, and there's a plan for that video. Though I'm sure that plan will degrade between now and whenever I do the video. But in thinking about this, the plan for this video degraded even further. So we're going to go through what we can think of going through. There's really nothing worse than giving yourself blue balls. You get the shakes and then you repress them, and they don't really go away. You're just, for the remainder of the day, walking around with this low level of weak knees, weak arms, vague shakes, and your mind is mush. The concept that struck me: I'll die on the hill. Your impulses are not just about getting or propagating your genes. And it's not even about, or strictly about, you and another person connecting. I think when you're into the right shit, it's more like mining the collective unconscious for information. Size in general is one of the main things I'm into. Just about every other feeling I have connects up with that in some way. If I am into something else, then I am into it only in relation to that original feeling. Some exceptions, not many. The image or the realization, the epiphany, the grand, or one of the many, every day or every epiphany is a grand epiphany when you're turned on. Less an image, more a series of components constituting sorts of images which speak to your condition as a human being. The subject and object need to be the same size at first, and best if equals and affectionate. But then you have the tiny people around who are, in some fashion, lesser. Obviously so. And the subject needs to treat them according to their station, treating them as lesser. And then you introduce the mechanism by which they became lesser. Whether that is, a lot of the time you'll see it's a virus, or it's a pill, or a treatment, or something. That doesn't matter. But the mechanism needs to be introduced. And then the object needs to realize in that moment your humanity, the rights you think you have, this connection you think you have with the subject, this other person, this equality or this affection, could be taken away or mutated into a much lesser, probably worse state, or at least it can be shaken in an instant. One pill could change everything. You're standing on a precipice right now, and falling off could happen so quickly and so easily, and then you're nothing. But you aren't even allowed to die. And the reason that gave me the shakes and the chills to the point my brain isn't functioning right now is that sort of thing speaks to the illusion we live in. You think you're a person. You think you have rights. You think equality exists. You think transcendental or unconditional love exists. None of them exist. You aren't a human. Or you're only human insofar as your conditions allow you to be a human. If your conditions change, how easy is it for you to cease being a human in society's eyes? Even in the eyes of someone you love, someone you care about, someone you think cares about you, and they probably do care about you. But again, they care about you only as long as your condition or conditions permit them to care about you. Keep you up enough to be something worth caring about. And that can go away in an instant, and these abstractions, like love and equality and whatnot, they don't exist. They exist because conditions allow them to exist. Today, you're an equal. Tomorrow, you could be vermin. And at the beginning, we explained what that idea is tapping into, or what it's revealing, what truths it's revealing, that, or truths your sexuality helped you realize, but I still don't understand why there's this getting off on it drive. You know, something like psychedelics, you take psychedelics, they help you arrive at certain truths. Why in this case, or rather in these cases, because again, when you have peak fetish, why are those the vehicles that take you to these truths? Why not something like a psychedelic? I'm not sure. Okay, we got through that. 7 minutes. Now we get into dating. Not generally. Dating is weird. This is the log bridge over the swamp, rickety ass bridge I have put together and has been working for me thus far, plus my thoughts about it. I was listening to Black Phillip, the last 3 episodes, which are of all of them my favorites, and they got into the hunting and or hunter and hunted talk. What's your approach and what are you trying to get? And I don't talk about this stuff often because my strategies tend to be sneaky. So Patrice talks about hunting bears, being a bear hunter. Dante talks about hunting deers, being a deer hunter. And you have Jeffrey hunting bunnies, bunny hunter, bunny charmer. And I've thought about myself in relation to this concept for a long, long time now. What's your strategy? What are you looking for? And the hunter hunted thing, if you think about yourself in relation to it, it helps you clear up a bunch of things. For a long time, I viewed myself as or my strategy as a gardener or gardening. But another way you could look at it would be carnivorous plants or a carnivorous plant. But I think the reason I've had a hard time choosing between the two is it's a bit of both. So we'll say a gardener who specializes in carnivorous plants. Because I've never been much of a hunter. One time in my life, I hunted a lot, but that's another one of those situations. I was doing that because conditions permitted it. And even then and there, it was more like aggressive gardening. Do you remember Kick? The golden days of Hey Hey and Hey Ya? The original, this is pre-Tinder shit. Or if Tinder was around, then it was small enough that I didn't know about it. The way Hey Hey and Hey Ya worked, you chose a picture from your gallery and you posted it, and then it went into a scrolling collection of images. and then you pick one you like and you message that person directly. And for our younger viewers, it was as much of a shit show as you could imagine it to be, but it was brilliant. There hasn't been a thing as good or times as good since then, if getting is what you're looking for. And the other brilliant part, when I say you choose a picture from your gallery, you don't have to post your face, and I never posted my face. What I would do is I would post existential questions. And that is where and how a young fella develops a ravenous taste for NTs multiple times per day. You get into these conversations about the bigger topics, and you do care about them. That's part of what made it work. But always, at some point, the wheel turns and we go down road. And that's still the way things go online today. That that fucking maniac. Well, not. I shouldn't say fucking maniac singular. Fucking maniacs plural. This has been my game since middle school. I know the way these things work. I know the signals when they appear, how they play out, so on and so forth. Don't act coy. You learn the ways certain women talk when they are into you. That's probably one of the reasons I like the lesbian division we are growing. That's becoming less and less of a joke every day. It's really useful to be able to get pure woman perspective without even the possibility of that going on. Because heterosexual women are aggravating. They exist in an illusion of coyness. Things will be cool, things will be productive and useful for a while, and then they will start dipping into that direction, and when you try to steer it away from that, they pretend like this is not what's going on. And I think one of the reasons they play this coy shit is an aversion to rejection on the smallest level. And to be fair, I hate it also. The first time I asked a girl out was in 6th grade, and she turned me down, and I had been building up courage for weeks, and she did it hard to say. Ooh, that was fucking stupid. That entire situation was stupid. Okay, we got out of class, and I was talking to my buddy Kevin. And he was just talking about something, and I could see this girl I was into with one of her friends a bit ahead of us. And I stopped Kevin, with no words, ran up to her, asked her out, and we hadn't talked at all. We hadn't talked at all, but I had planned out our entire life together. And she said no with this disgusted face, and her friend looked terrified. Her friend looked terrified. And I was wearing sweatpants, and I had a bowl cut. Thanks, parents. Oh, fuck. And then I just stood there, and they walked off, kept walking. Kevin walked up to me and patted me on the shoulder and goes, "It's okay, man." So I can appreciate the distaste for rejection, but thinking about this rejection thing in a larger context, it's odd because men learn to deal with rejection. And I have asked out women in person beyond that, gotten rejected before. My last one was when I was in university. I asked a girl out, and she said she was very nice about it. But and actually, even though I'm not normally someone who puts myself out there like that, as a dude, you do start to develop that rejection tolerance. But these days, it seems like you can't just go around and ask for numbers and do this and that without getting the cops called on you. So it's another weird way society has gone fucky-wucky. women don't want to make the first move, but men aren't allowed to make the first move. So you're actually seeing fewer and fewer bold dudes walking around, and they're more like snipers, which is not bad. It's a necessary adaptation, but it's not the same. That avenue has been closed off, which is the reason Hey Hey was brilliant, because you do develop a rejection tolerance on there, but it's not the same thing. But anyway, back to the original point. The reason, or that's the reason, probably the reason I do gardening or carnivorous plants. Because I don't feel safe going around asking people out on a physical material level. I don't want to get arrested. And two, on an embarrassment level. I do not like feeling embarrassed. Meaning, if you want to be involved in this scene, you need to work something else out. I'm not a sniper. I want to have complete control over the situation. And furthermore, I like the feeling of power I get when I get a bite. When someone wanders into the garden. Because I can either. It's funny. It's like army guys in Vietnam developing Viet Cong tactics. I do a lot of woman shit these days. You think you're coy, I will teach you the meaning of coy. Because if you enter the garden and I either push you away or let you stay but don't bring you in further, and you try to call me out on what I'm doing, saying I'm a dirty hunter, I'm not hunting, I'm gardening. I'm sorry you see it that way. You probably have some unresolved insecurity issues. You should look inward, heal yourself, so on and so forth. When in reality, I am, in fact, very much hunting. And what is gardening? It's building a life a person would be curious about or want to be involved in. And the reason it works is it's not necessarily a dating strategy. This is something I would be doing anyway. It's more like something you can divert energy from or to for additional effects. Or in other words, you can go dark effectively, or when you open up, it's not a gambit or a game, it's what you would be doing normally. And it's good at attracting the sort of women I like. Women who are bold enough to investigate. Now, I have met very few women who will hunt the way men do and try to seal the deal for themselves, but enough boldness to investigate is a good start. And there's still an element of disgust in the way this is something you want, yet you expect me to give it to you instead of you're trying to get it. But because even in these situations, if you're a gardener, you do still need to be the one to seal the deal. But the entire point of the gardening is if they're in the garden, then there's not really a lot of risk involved. It is a repellent formality. But what can you do? And then on the other side of this, what are you hunting? Well, the benefit of gardening is you get to choose from a variety. And that's another interesting or weird thing that they talk about is the way if you are a hunter of something, it's not just you don't go hunting other things, but you can't. Or you can try, but it's probably not going to work because the methods you have developed for the sorts of women or men you're looking for work only on that sort of creature. And it's interesting watching and the other reason I like this hunting analogy or metaphor is it operates like an ecosystem because it is an ecosystem. And it's fun watching yourself fall into your niche, but it's also distressing because what if you want, but you find you want something outside your niche, but then do you actually want something outside your niche? Nature way, way, way over nurture. So for me, sometimes it'll be like Patrice, sometimes bears will wander into the garden, but I don't fight bears usually, I serene them down. And that works because typically when I'm looking to get into an extended thing with a woman, sexuality is a very important part of that, which is, for me, why this gardening selection process is so important. If it seems like we aren't going to connect on a sexual level, it's probably not going to work. And you need a selection because how many women really are operating on that level? On that transmission and receiver level with the collective unconscious. That's not very common. So in terms of time investment, if you want to get what you want, you're better off getting a bunch of people to come to you instead of you going around and going individual to individual to individual. But back to that sorts of women point. Much of what I'm looking for when I'm going to be with someone for a while is utility. What can you do? What do you bring to the table? And with bears, I view them as living hand grenades. She won't be very good at building or sustaining anything, but damn if she can't fuck up a few people's days if I need her to. I don't have an exact animal analog for this sort of woman, but ENFPs traditionally are fun. ENTPs and INTPs are in the same sort of category. Actually, ENFPs and ENTPs, if we're doing the animal thing, are like crows with different attitudes. Not strictly thinking on a typological level here. The reason you're with a crow is they're interesting, they're more fun than you'd think they'd be, and they keep you informed on things. They're always buzzing around externally and internally. Once again, fun, but not really activationatory on that grug level, and also not a lot of utility. Again, at least in my life. If I need something done, whatever I could get an ENFP or an ENTP to do, I can probably do it myself the way I want it done. INTPs are a little bit different. They're more like gardeners, which I guess tracks. Dating INTPs is weird, or dating another gardener is weird, because you do benefit from being with them. You mutually expand one another's gardens and gardening talents, and in my experience, and actually in other INTPs' experiences, this is something that desperately needs to be researched. Something fucked up is going on here. INTPs can speak to one another on that really fucked up, really great level, but it's like it's all pleasure and no connection on both sides, and I don't know how that disconnect happens. It's strange. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, I have taken 2 lions, but that's gotten strange too. And when I say lion, of course I mean ENTJ, but not all lions are ENTJs, and not all ENTJs are lions. And even the ENTJs who are lions are more like lions in the very strict sense, which is odd. Miss Top the way you want her, or him probably, doesn't exist. At least not in the way you want them, or all the time. or even most of the time, it's weird feeling like you're already married or have been married for a long time with a sort of person. Because that saying you date the same person over and over again with different faces, that's absolutely the case, and I think there's something cognitive and spiritual to that, but it gets weird when you've been living in that arrangement for a long time. It's weird meeting someone and feeling like you already know them very well. And that feeling seems to go both ways. It's not like you're meeting this new person and you're going to get caught up in this whirlwind romance. It's more like the last part went bad and has been switched out with a new form of the exact same part, mutually. You both know what you're about, you both know how to work together, and it's nice, it's functional, but it's still so strange. I'm a gardener in symbiosis with lions. That's the other weird part of it. It doesn't feel like hunting anymore. I and particular sorts of ENTJ women and others, but usually ENTJ women, we've achieved a sort of equilibrium. I like lions because they can fuck things up the way a bear would, but they're also more organized and can do shit. And that's the other thing, I don't even mean strictly in a dating sense. You just, like mold, you grow lions on you. There's a collection of ENTJ women professionally I deal with. We are not romantically involved yet with one another in this professional setting. We operate as if we've been married for a long time, have known each other for a long time, have this weird, unspoken, frankly unestablished trust, and it works, but I don't know what it is or what it means. I have an idea of what to do with it, whether we are engaging on a romantic level or not. That or not is the most peculiar part, because there is this, again, strange affection there, but it's not exactly affection. I don't know what it is. I give you my tomatoes and you go kill impalas for me. I provide you a comforting, nourishing space to be yourself, like a pocket dimension, and you go do the things I can't or don't want to. And the fact you're a woman probably means you'll be able to do the things I need you to do better. Which is one of the reasons those high-level lesbians are so important in the grand strategy. I just took a thinking piss, and here's what I think it is, or part of why it's odd. I like when you scare me, but you don't scare me anymore. You like when I mystify you, I don't mystify you anymore. You, lion, or lions, get a nice place to hang out, and I get lions around me. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement, uplifting one another. You get the space to breathe and be yourself outside the bullshit, plus get some information piped in, and I get, well, the material benefits of having something that can do things, but also just the status of having high-level women around you. It makes you look better as a man, but it also makes the women look better as women. But that's the other weird thing. There's sexual energy, but there's no sexuality involved. I haven't been in a relationship in probably 4 years now. And I don't know what's blocking me. The last few years I haven't felt like gardening aggressively, to go out and find new creatures or lure in new creatures, but at the same time, I don't want to bite any of the animals that have wandered into the garden. It's probably shame from living at home. It's probably shame from not making enough money. It's probably fear, too. But I don't know why that is, because that used not to be the case. I don't know where this reticence is coming from. I want to be close with someone emotionally. I want to get off, definitely. Maybe I've just worked myself to a point I would rather white knuckle this and try to break through, crash through the wall of life alone than risk bringing on someone I'm going to need to worry about and then probably be betrayed by. Because betrayal is a constant part of life and I don't like it. And people tell you you should heal and get over these sorts of things, but typically when someone says you should heal and move past it or grow, that usually means forget the lessons you've learned and then get stabbed again. And the reasonable way to move forward would be to get back in there, but keep the knife you've learned you've needed to keep. But to me, at least right now, if you need to keep your knife around you at all times, then that's not really a love worth wasting your time with. But then, what other kind of love is there? You need to have your knife with you at all times. So if this is something you want to engage in, then you need to work this self-preservation into a point it doesn't feel active. Or you aren't thinking about it, but it's still always there to keep you safe. And of course, there is the you don't need love to be sexually active frame of mind, the hit it and frame of mind, but that doesn't work for me. Both because of the and the collective unconscious mining thing, just doesn't do anything for me. If you're into weird shit, you ever tried watching normal porn? You can bring yourself, but it makes you feel empty. It feels like you've wasted something and lost something. That's the only reason I'll give these dudes 1 second of the time of day. Something is wrong with normal porn. Something spiritually wrong with it. Fortunately, it's funny. I think I was in my early 20s when I realized I'd never really investigated normal porn. Outside your first forays into porn, all of my interests have kept me in some pretty solid spheres. Spheres of art, spheres of people, spheres of concepts. And although size has its dumb or gross elements, I lucked out. Really good people, for the most part, in the size community. And certainly none of these fucking... Not adjective as in this fucking... I mean verb fucking fiascos. I'm not associated with fucking... Or doing other things, worse things to live animals. I really, really, really don't like fur. Ooh, naughty. It's not just the bad ones, right? Quotes bad ones. Fur are like the equivalent of people who are really obsessed with dragons. I don't know what that is or what's going on there, but that is a huge cognito hazard ass red flag in people. These are more generalized, but the dragon thing is very specific. Someone you know someone who's really into dragons, there's something wrong with them. But it sounds like it should be innocuous, shouldn't be a problem. Beware. So promiscuity like that is a big, risky waste of time. Now, In a different world, that would probably be a different story, but in this world, it's not worth it. So I don't know what's wrong with me on that front. My guess, I'll probably end up settling down with some lion at some point. But you never know. Right, and one of the other things from my notes that was going to be in the controversy, I don't draft videos like scripts or anything. I write things down and then stuff comes to me. One of the things I was thinking about that I'm still having a hard time, I think I've come to terms with it now, or at least accepted it enough I can work with it, but I haven't totally accepted it on that internal level yet, is this non-equality thing. Maybe it's a poetry thing. There always needs to be someone on top, and there always needs to be someone on bottom. And how that works out will look very different, but it is the case there needs to be a leader and a follower. Even if, as in my arrangements usually are, the follower appears to be the more capable one. And outside advanced lesbianism, women are not going to be the leaders. Or if they become the leaders, things are going to get fucked up and the relationship's going to fall apart quickly. And I think I'm resentful of that. Because when I was younger, I wanted to be a follower. I wanted to follow and support Boss Bitch. And Boss Bitch doesn't exist. She's an idea. And maybe she's a leader in her fields, maybe she has her own followers, but if you're with her, if you're the dude, you need to be the leader, because firstly, she's not going to want to lead, or she'll think she wants to lead, but then she'll take that position and then fuck everything up. That responsibility is on your shoulders, however you feel about it. And it's aggravating because we can't even do the equality thing. In most of these relationships in which partners say they're equal, they'll call it equal, and maybe they'll even think it's equal, but in practice, one is on top, one is on bottom. And that probably contributes to why this dating thing, or my dating thing, is fucked up, why this symbiosis is weird. I've gotten myself to a point I can sit on a throne, I'm willing to do it, and I understand why I should do it, I know how to do it, I understand the necessity of it. Once you realize these things and see how they work and sit on the throne, you realize there's no other option, so you're in this fucky-wucky spot in which you want to be on the bottom as someone who both understands you can't be on the bottom and now also doesn't want to be on the bottom. It's all fucked up. And not to mention, as a sub, the way that fucks everything up sexually. I've been trying to work my brain into a state this can still work. Thinking about, okay, or break it down even further. These are the fields you need to have control in, but she can absolutely have total control over these fields, and that's a form of dominance, right? Right? That should work, right? Because that's absolutely true. Women do wield tremendous power in tons of ways, but again, in my experience, it's like they don't even want to wield the power they have and are good at having. They want to take the power. Okay, if you have power, they want to take your power, your seat on the throne, and then fuck it up because they don't want it. And if you aren't taking the throne, then they don't want to take it and they resent you for not taking it. Or they'll take it and then fuck with you for not taking it. It's irritating. And interestingly, in the last however many years, there has been this big push among women who want the who have abstracted into the traditional arrangement and think they want to follow it. They're the most agitating because they don't even realize they're too smart to stick with the thing they want if they got it. Or another way to look at it, all the discussion and disagreement is happening outside the castle. But then once you get into the castle, everything goes right back to the way this bullshit has always been. So this all has been a discussion on the way things are overall from my point of view. And I know we didn't hit on everything. I know I've probably forgotten 20 things. But it's okay. We can make more videos like this eventually. And also a video from my particular perspective. And the last thing I wrote in my notes is, her ass is like Amigara Fall. And in my latent horny state, we could probably break off right now and go into a Dracula Flow-esque poetry slam about gigantic, delicious ass. But we won't do that. Her ass has me speaking sign language. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.